Hi there, have you heard about C2M, Consumer to Manufacturing? If not, do watch this video because this is the new business model that is going to be changing the global e-commerce, and it's coming from China. So stay tuned on this week's Pascal's China Lens for more about C2M. Now, one of the new trends in business that I'm truly excited about is this consumer to manufacturing business model, C2M. And this is coming out of China, hence I make a video about it. Now, if we look at traditional business, typically M2C, manufacturing to consumer with the brand in between, what the brand did still today is they created these new products, these new designs. Think about BMW, Apple, think about Gucci, think about any brand you can think of. And then they sourced these products in factories, more and more in China, of course. They put it in the store and the consumer bought it. Typical traditional way of doing business. But then later on, what you saw in the past decade, this became much more customer-centric. And this was more about the consumer and the customer and trying to understand what they wanted, what the trends were that were alive in social media. And so a company that was very successful in this model is Zara from Inditex. And so they basically created these designs based on all the designs available in the world and what customers loved. But then they still went into the same sourcing model, usually in China, and then they put it in the store. So they put the customer first. But besides that, there's not a lot of change. Other companies like H&M, Uniqlo, they all went into that same direction. Then later on, maybe 5 years ago, you saw more and more of this direct to consumer. And it's the same model as the one that is very customer centric. The only difference, there's no physical retail. It's online, sold direct to the consumer. And you see a lot of companies like Nova Fashion that went into where even Amazon you could call with private labels, in a way doing something or allowing brands or people to make their own brands doing this model. So the direct to consumer was very popular, still is today, specifically in fashion. But now I believe there's a new model coming up, which is called consumer to manufacturing. And this is coming out of China. And the big difference there is that they're putting the consumers and the designers on the same level. And that's now possible with social media. If you think about Instagram, you think about YouTube, you think about TikTok, you think about all these platforms where people can actually express themselves. They're not at a different level anymore. It's not these designers from Gucci or Chanel that are deciding what the market wants. It's also not the consumer like with Zara that is trying to figure out from market research and other ways what the trends are. No, now they're telling it online every single day. And the cool thing about C2M, this new idea, is that this is combined with the platforms and the factories. What it means is that in China, more and more of these e-commerce players, they're connecting the consumers and the designers directly to the factories so that they can produce these new trends instantly. And then they're monitoring what the market wants in order to do it faster, better, cheaper, and so on. So I'm going to explain a little bit about this model because it's really cool for the consumer, for the factory, and also for the platforms. For the brands, it's a real challenge, but they can work with this model as well. Now, the first company that came up with this idea, C2M, is called Biyao. And Biyao is must-have in Chinese. It's a platform, a marketplace. And so the founder, Bi Shen, he really said, I believe that this whole e-commerce is a scam. I mean, if you look at it, the brands, they're making an uprise of 100% sometimes because they're sourcing very low prices in China, and then they sell very expensive because they have a great story to tell. But on the other hand, he was saying, I mean, much of the design now is happening in the factories, by the factories, so they're not OEM manufacturers like original equipment or product manufacturing. They're actually original design manufacturers. They're designing in the factories. And so they do this great quality for Gucci or for any product, Apple. Why can't they do this for a new brand? And so this is where Biyao created this C2M model. He wanted to cut out the middleman completely. And that means a lower price for the consumer, which means more volume for the brands and for the brands, but also for the factories. Now, this evolved over time because this is like 5 years old now. And it evolved in China quite quickly. And today, the company everybody's talking about is Shein. And I don't know if you heard about it, but you might not have heard about it, because if you are in Generation Z, so the youngsters of today, then you definitely know about Shein. This is the fashion brand of today. And what makes it so special is that they actually can offer very good price, very fast, and very trendy. And how do they do that? Well, they do it in a very specific way. And one thing I can recommend, if you really want to understand the Shein business model and how they're transforming this whole industry to C2M, there's a paper that is written by Matthew Brennan and some other person that is about this Shein. It's on notboring.co. And Matthew Brennan is a great friend of mine. He wrote a really good book. I can recommend it to you. It's called The Attention Factory about TikTok. And so this is a super book to explain and understand what TikTok is all about. And this is critical if you want to understand what Shein is actually doing well. Now, Shein in itself is a company that is called real-time fashion supplier platform. And what is special about them, and this is what every Chinese platform is now doing, and this is going to go global, is that they're connecting the online website or the app today directly with their ERP system, so the Enterprise Resource Planning system, and they're connecting that with the supplier system. So what that means is that if you want to buy a product of Shein through somebody who promoted it on Instagram or maybe on TikTok, what you do is you can actually buy the product, and then instantly every time you buy it or somebody recommends it or there's better reviews or there's a sharing or more attention about that product, this data, this information goes directly to the factories through all the systems. And so Shein wants every factory that works with them to use that same software. But that means that these factories can scale up very quickly because they know there's more demand in the market for that particular product, and that really helps them. And so this is real-time fashion, and Matthew Brennan calls it the TikTok of e-commerce. So a company really you want to look into. But this is about creating this digital environment to help the consumers with better offers. Now, why is this coming from China, and why is this popular today? It wouldn't have been possible to make this C2M successful 10 years ago, because there's a lot that changed in the meantime. First of all, it's the experience society. These days, Generation Z, but millennials, everybody wants to have this experience. They're all live streaming on TikTok, on Instagram. It's kind of like being part of the experience. And that means that the data that companies get now is much more accurate, much more interesting, and you don't need to send out market research teams to figure out what consumers want. Big change. And so these platforms, and in China I put a number on them, like Shein, like Pinduoduo, JD.com, Alibaba with Tmall. All these companies, what they do is they know exactly what the consumer and the market and niche markets want. And they know that so that they can help the brands with better packaging, better distribution, better promotion. And so they have a lot of insights. But the cool thing about what's happening in China now, and I see this going global, is that these platforms are offering this not just to brands, which is quite unique in China. In the West, you don't see Amazon giving as much data to brands, but they do in China. But what they do now is they're also giving it to the factories. And so these factories, which were original design manufacturers, they're actually now able to get the data from the customer instantly and know exactly what to produce. And because of Industry 4.0, AI, big data, IoT, all these things, they can actually do that almost in real time. And that makes them very, very powerful. Now, the last thing is about the creators. And that's also something Matthew talks about, and many people talk about this TikTok phenomenon, where everybody has become an actor, everybody is a creator, and so the whole world is now designing. It's not just the Gucci's or the BMWs or the very smart people that know about product design. Anybody can design, and some are really, really good. So for some products, this makes total sense. Now, why is China actually leading in that industry? This has to do with 4 trends that were created in China before it went global. And the first one has to do with lifestyle e-commerce. The company in China that was the first to do that more than 5 years ago was Red, or Xiaohongshu in Chinese. And this was a lifestyle platform and had nothing to do with e-commerce originally. It was just about sharing lifestyle and experience, and people were actually getting acquainted to new things, reviews. They were writing a lot of content, really interesting. Then they combine it with e-commerce, but it wasn't about promoting brands, it was really about promoting a lifestyle. The second thing is social e-commerce. I made a video about Pinduoduo earlier, so you can read a lot or listen a lot to a lot of these insights about e-commerce and social e-commerce, where you combine social media with e-commerce. And so what Pinduoduo does very well is create these groups that have wise interests and understand them, and then basically send the products to them directly from the manufacturing and so on. Which means that they have a lot of insights on what people want and how trends are behaving. The third thing comes from Alibaba. And Alibaba over the past decade has been digitizing a lot of retail. And so all these retailers, little shops, papa mom shops everywhere in the country were suddenly getting completely digitized, which means they were connected to the system of Alibaba, which helped them to create a better inventory, but also understand what customers want and do orders and payments and everything. Now this is happening into factories now. Alibaba's doing it, Pinduoduo has done it, Shein has done it. You see more and more of these platforms plugging into the factories, not just into the retailers. And the last thing has to do with this attention factory, which Matthew also talks about. This is about TikTok, and it's about basically being seen, but also creating your own new things. And on TikTok, you know it very clearly. I mean, these youngsters, they're really very creative and do really cool stuff. But you could do that also to design products. And that means that now suddenly you have this new environment, which isn't older than 5 years, coming from China, that allows the C2M model to flourish. And if you look at Pinduoduo, for example, what you see is in traditional model, it was typically, if you look at the farmer, which is a very interesting, farming is a very interesting industry to look at. The farmer was sending this to the consumer through all these middlemen. And you remember what I said about Biyao? Biyao, this company, they really wanted to cut out the middleman. Well, this is exactly what Pinduoduo did. But they did it not just for luxury goods, they did it for agriculture products, for any product you can imagine. And so these farmers now, they could live stream their products, think about this attention factory, so they could actually promote their products. And this is what at Shein factories also have to do. They have to make videos about their product. What can they design? What can they produce? And so the factories are becoming the brands telling the world what they can make. And then Pinduoduo sends these live streams directly online through their platform to all the consumers. Consumers are addicted to that live stream. Because of social e-commerce, they're actually buying that together with their friends, and so it's a recommendation engine in itself, which means that these companies like Pinduoduo doesn't have to do all the marketing and the promotion, because the consumers are doing it for them, are doing it for the brands and for the factories. And so suddenly you have a very direct line, which is about direct to consumer, but it's more than that. It's not just about sending it directly. It's about having the knowledge of the market, having the knowledge of the factory, connecting these dots. And that is what makes these platforms so interesting. Now, Shein is these days the one that everybody's talking about. And up to a few months ago, even a year ago, people had no idea what this was about. Shein, who's that company? Unless you're like a 13, 15-year-old that is buying all these fashion products through TikTok or on Instagram, you don't get in touch with Shein. And the interesting thing about Shein is they're not selling in China, although they're a Chinese company. And the reason they're not selling in China has to do a lot with the fact that they actually want to take the advantage of this manufacturing pool in China to sell to the world. Makes sense. TikTok did the same in the beginning, really sell to the world, and use the algorithms for them to as a benefit against other competitors. Now, what really shook the world somehow of e-commerce is that just last month, this company Shein became the #1 downloaded app in the world. Much bigger than Amazon in more than 50 countries, but even in the US. And so suddenly everybody was like, yeah, we have to take this serious. If millions, hundreds of millions of kids are now all preferring to buy on Shein than to buy on Amazon, what are we going to do with our brands? What is Amazon going to do? I mean, suddenly it changed the whole concept of C2M. We have to take it seriously. And then if you look at the company itself, it's only like 10 years old. But in 10 years' time, they've doubled their revenue every year. And now they're doing like $10 billion in revenue already. I mean, this is insane. And so a lot of investors have put money in there, but they're very low profile because for them, it's not about their brand, it's about their platform. And so they don't want to, just like others, like Elon Musk or maybe Jeff Bezos from Amazon, really want to show that they have the best thing. No, they're doing it through these influencer platforms. So the influencers are making the marketing for them. Now, if you just look at the revenue, the market share that actually Shein has taken in just the last 2 years. I mean, I wouldn't want to be H&M or Zara or Uniqlo or any of these companies because I would be really scared. I mean, this is for real. Shein is becoming the most popular fashion brand. Real-time fashion for everyone. And that has a lot to do with the C2M model. So we have to look into it. So for the factories and for the consumers and for the platforms, the benefits are obvious. If we look at the platforms, I mean, they have no more inventory. The factory is sending it directly to the consumers. And so that makes a lot of sense. Even at Amazon, there's a lot of warehousing that is needed. On the second part, it's really about the customer acquisition cost. And this is usually a big cost. Even Alibaba in the past and many companies, even platforms, have been investing a lot into trying to reach customers and do market promotions and campaigns. But today, that's not needed anymore because these consumers, they're now recommending these products themselves on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all these platforms. So what that means is that you have your customer acquisition cost, which is limited to working with opinion leaders like influencers. And this is what TikTok is doing. This is what all these platforms like Pinduoduo, Shein, and so on, Alibaba, they're all doing that, working with these influencers. But the consumers themselves then make sure that everybody knows that it's a great product. So customer acquisition cost goes down. The third thing has to do with the supply chain control. And this has always been a challenge for any brand. If you work with factories in China or anywhere, then you have to do this quality assurance. You have to make sure they do it right. And once it's right, the next time it's wrong. But now, because the digital system, the ERP system is connected with the supply chain system, what that means is you can monitor in real time how factories are doing. And so you can actually, if factories are not doing a great job, you can actually choose other factories or you can talk with them. And so this is real-time monitoring. And on top of that, they monitor the customer real-time. So that means that they really have a very good idea about the supply chain. If customers don't like a product, well, they have to talk to the factories. And so this is really helping these platforms to get much more detailed on the information. But then it's also about communities. And another thing in this world of influencers and social media, TikTok and so on, it's all about community building, and so that creates loyalty. And because Shein is becoming the way to create your identity online, because you dress nice or you bought a new wearable or whatever it is, you're creating a lot of loyalty and do free branding for Shein. And this is not just Shein. Any of these platforms in China has the same concept. Now, it's also for the factories very beneficial. First of all, they know the demand for the production. Now, this is a complete new world for them. If you imagine in the past, if an H&M or a Nike or whoever wanted to create some products, they did a lot of market research, they understood the customer, and then basically they went to the factories, placed an order, and the factories just had to make that product. And they didn't have to ask too many questions. It was like, we need this batch. If you can't do it, another factory can do it. But now they know exactly on the minute, in the second, they know what the consumers want, what the trends are, how to do it. And so they can actually now become brands. And this is where the original equipment manufacturer like Foxconn, that became now then later an original design manufacturer, is now becoming an original brand manufacturing. And so they're becoming brands on themselves. So the factories are starting to compete with the brands. And this is an interesting topic to watch. Now, the other interesting and important thing is that production waste is reduced because they know exactly what to produce. They scale up, scale down. They don't need to create too much and then have to store it or basically not get rid of it because they missed the market with a couple of months. And that is now much better. The other thing is they can do a better investment because of that, because they know exactly what the market wants. They know which machines to buy or not buy, and they don't make too many mistakes as they did often before. And ultimately, and that's the coolest for these manufacturers, for the first time in their life, they're getting paid on time. Because most of these Western brands that were sourcing in China, they actually only pay them like 60, 90 days or even 180 days, depending on when they started getting money from the retailers or from the customers. And so now they're getting paid really in 30 days time. This is amazing. And so for these factories, it means cash flow. Cash flow means investment. Investment means they can scale up. And that means they can actually get bigger and bigger and actually earn more money. So there's only an upside for them. So they love this concept. Now, for the consumer, the advantages, the benefits are obvious. It's a lot cheaper. If you look at the price on Amazon or on Shein for the same product, you really see a difference of ×2. And these are both online platforms. If you then look at the speed of delivery, it's really, instead of weeks to wait before a product ends up in a store and you can go and get it, for example, at H&M or Zara or whatever, this now is like a week. You have the product that you want instantly delivered at your home, even the newest designs. It doesn't take 18 months between the concept or the design and the time you can buy it. Big difference for consumers. And in this world where everything is becoming fast and fluid, I mean, of course, they love it. It's very customized as well, which is also something that people now want. They want their personal thing with 3D printing, which China is also starting to lead. Maybe I'll make a video about that later. You also see that they can really personalize and customize manufacturing. And people want that. They want something personal. They want their identity linked to it. And they want the most trendy things. And this is possible through the C2M model. And then ultimately the creators, they love it. Because now they have this, so they can stream their creations online on TikTok and everybody can buy it, which means that these creators are now center of attention and they see their designs come to life instantly. It's not about sending it to another company or trying to get a job at a big brand and then designing. And no, this is now instant. You have it and you see the results. Now, there's also some downsides of C2M. And of course, there wouldn't be if it, for every new industry, it's of course, or new business model, there's some problems. Quality is often a problem. You hear a lot of people that get products from Shein or from Pinduoduo that they said the quality is really rubbish, it didn't work very well. But I wouldn't overestimate this problem, because this has really to do with the fact that they need to monitor better. Because ultimately it's the same factories building for Gucci and building for H&M and Zara that are building now for these customers. The only difference is that as they have more than 1,000 designs every week coming out, there's basically, it's actually every day, 1,000 designs every day. Of course you make mistakes, and so this needs to be updated. But I think this is a problem because of the sheer volume and the speed of designs. If you take something that is a little bit older, a few weeks old, a few months old, you should be okay. So you're still much better off than going to the store. The second thing has to do with copying, and this is a real issue for some of these companies, because designers can be anyone. It means they can also copy designs from famous designers, and then Shein gets into trouble. So they need a better legal team, but they also need to prevent all these things in the future. This is just the beginning of this industry, so there's still some problems that they have, and they're learning as they go. Culture and geopolitics is becoming a problem. Shein is banned, for example, in India. But you also see cultural, they sometimes make mistakes with designs that they couldn't do. So that there's sometimes products that shouldn't be on the market, which is culturally very sensitive in certain markets. And they're learning through that as well. So I think the first three, they're learning as they go, but there's still mistakes. But because it's so cheap and so fast, people, most youngsters are okay with these mistakes. The biggest problem I see is the environment, because now, if you're like H&M or Zara, you buy in bulk and you send to different stores, but now it's like individual packaging going all over the world, hundreds of millions of packages. I mean, not very good for the environment. I'm not sure how they're going to solve that, but this is kind of, I would say, the biggest challenge that this company is going to face, specifically post-pandemic, to figure out how to improve this environmental problem. But regardless of this, I believe C2M is here to stay. I think it's going to go global, and I believe China has set this trend. And from made in China, now it became designed in China, it became created in China, and today it's branded in China. And so let's forget about looking at China as a factory of the world just to build and produce the products that we decide what they should be. Today, it's China deciding the products that we want, and they're deciding it based on our social media. We're telling the world, we're telling China what we want. And so this is why I believe C2M is here to stay. It's still small, but if you look at Shein, I mean, it's growing so fast that I think any brand in the world should really take this serious. So this was a video about a new business model which I believe is now going to take on the world, coming from China. So I hope you liked it, and see you next week for another episode on Pascal's China Lens.